Jonathan Sacerdoti joins us right now, royal expert extraordinaire. Jonathan, thank you for taking the time. Can you educate me a little bit, Jonathan, on who was in charge of the seating arrangements for the big memorial mass yesterday, looking back at the Queen's life and her significance and the Jubilee? Who decides where people sit?
Well, these things are very carefully planned and quite long in advance. So there'll definitely have been a lot of thought going into where the different members of the family sit, as well as where all the other guests sit. Of course, there were many people there in St. Paul's, right, and they were all seated according to seniority, but also, we suspect, according to avoiding anyone really stealing the limelight or causing any gossip or speculation about how members of the family are getting on. And these things will work according to a protocol at first, and then after that, of course, there'll be sort of personal input. It is quite possible that Her Majesty the Queen may even have had some input as well. Because of the awkward situations in the family recently, she certainly had to make some tough calls. For example, the choice of who would be on the balcony during Trooping the Colour. And similarly, there have been other discussions about using only working royals in certain appearances, right, because not only Prince Harry, but also Prince Andrew have caused some embarrassment to the family.
Oh, that's an interesting thing. So in other words, it's going to provide you cover to limit it to working royals. You know, Jonathan, there's been a great deal of attention on Harry and Meghan and this tension maybe between William and Kate and his father, Prince Charles, going back to that Oprah interview. But I guess the first significant sign I saw of how, you know, ill it's gotten is when they were booed, you know, Harry and Meghan coming out of that service. I don't believe I've ever heard that, at least in Britain. What was the significance there? How are they being received?
Well, it's interesting because there were some boos also for Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister. Now, that's, I think, people consider fair game because he's somebody we elect. And so, of course, there are people who like him and don't like him. But when it comes to the royal family, as you say, it's much more unusual that there should be that kind of booing. They're meant to be something of a unifying force. And that's really, I think, getting to the heart of the problem with Harry and Meghan. The way they've been behaving in terms of the royal family has been extremely difficult. And it's really not gone down well, by and large, in Great Britain. So I think that people were angry with them, and it may only have been a small group of people in the crowd who did the booing, with others cheering to try and drown it out, as was the case with the Prime Minister. But we were talking earlier about who sat where. We're all familiar with that sort of idea, perhaps in family weddings. If there are members of the family who don't talk to other members, we try to keep them apart or be diplomatic about where we seat people. Well, the same is true of this family. It's just that there are millions, possibly billions, watching them. And so it's all a little bit more speculated over by the press, by the media. We're talking about it now. I think these are very difficult problems they've had to deal with. But let's not forget what Meghan and Harry accused the royal family of in those interviews. They accused the family of ignoring her suicidal tendencies, stopping her from getting therapy, being racist towards her unborn child, cutting them off from money when the rest of the world was going through quite a crisis in terms of rising costs and lack of work during the COVID lockdowns. I think many people in Britain and beyond just found them completely out of tune and out of touch with everyday people's problems. That's an occupational hazard for royalty, but they try to balance that very well. And I think that Meghan and Harry, going it alone, have not necessarily managed to keep that balance.
That's a very interesting point on that, because the racist thing in particular, your point, Jonathan, really stuck in the craw of the royal family, particularly Prince Charles and obviously you know, we could clearly see it even in the face of Prince William. But thank you very, very much. More celebrities and festivities over the next 48 hours as the Jubilee goes on.